Hello, everyone. We're going to cover topics 12 and topics 13 today. And topics 12 is about how to manage socially responsible in global organizations. And where we are on the continuum in terms of management principles is contingency. So really, we're really talking about situational management, and that will bring in Hersey and Blanchard and other theorists in that area. So that's where we're going to start. But let's just start with the deliverables for topic 12. Just before I do that, topic 13 reminder. This webinar includes topic 12 and topic 13, but the content from topic 13 is not covered in test number 3. Test number 3 covers 9, 10, 11, and 12. However, the participation activities 13A and 13B are required to be submitted for marking. So that's what you have to remember. And again, just to remember in topics 12, there's 2 surveys, Pearson-Revel surveys that you need to complete as well. So let's just talk about test number 3 again. It's a one-time test. It's going to happen on June the 18th. It's online at 9 a.m. So please test all your equipment before 9 a.m. so that you're prepared. It's going to be off campus, online, just like the first 2 tests. And again, it'll run from 9 till roughly 10:30 a.m. And again, it self-submits after 80 minutes. And you access test number 3 on Blackboard under topic 13. And again, the test content is topics 9, 10, 11, 12. And it's mainly multiple choice questions with a few true and false questions that make up 50 questions. And again, lockdown browser and webcam will be really required to do this test. And again, test number 3 practice tests are located in topic 12. Just remember that. And the key areas to study, to start from are the commentary PowerPoints that I've been providing, and actually studying the Robbins e-text PowerPoints as well is key. So in test number 3, there's basically 4 PowerPoint chapters to cover off, and here's where it's required. Okay. Again, here's all the information. You can find it on the presentation. Both these presentations have been updated for topic 12 and topic 13, and they're in Blackboard under the folders for the commentary presentation. So you can find more information. Again, if you have a Chromebook, if you just started using it, the platform doesn't service Chromebook like it does all other devices. So look to see, what you need to do special for that. And the best help that you can get is through the library. Okay, so for topic 12, chapter 13 is really important. And really the key areas in chapter 3 are the sections 3.3 and 3.4. So 3.3 is discussing the contemporary issues in managerial decision, and 3.4 centers around how ethics and social responsibility relate to decision making. And this is a big part of topic 12. And again, there's some questions related in assignment number 4, the Amazon assignment, that if you choose to do it, this chapter will really help you get more of the information to be able to address that. So let's talk about the participation activities. And really, in order to submit a team's recommended global strategy for Tim Hortons, the goals really represent the strategy. And what I'd like you to do is, this particular illustration here is just an enabler to help you pick the key areas that you could pick to create goals with. And what I'd like you to do, and which is really important, is to use the actual template for developing those goals. And that you can find in the Google links. And essentially in that Google link, you'll see this presentation called Goal Creation Guidelines. You can use this link right here in this presentation to be able to get there. And what it really kind of provides is a key example of what the goal statement should look like. And again, I'm emphasizing that you used end dates and not just timelines. All right, and I've used some corrections in the participation activities to kind of highlight that. It makes your goals much more compelling when you have an actual end date that people understand, instead of saying, well, in 3 months I will do this, or in 6 months we will achieve this. It just makes it a lot more accountable, I guess, in a way. So here's the template, and this is what you really need to do to create these 3 goals. It gives you an idea of what to provide, and go down this actual template to be able to do that, and you'll be in good shape to be able to do that. The second participation activities is a ranking exercise, and I've used this ranking exercise in facilitating strategic planning, and I got to tell you, it's pretty effective. And what it does do is that it allows people to really understand. They rate each issue and understand what's key. And what really follows this in a workshop is that you do the ranking, and you calculate the totals, and then you have a secondary discussion to be able to say, well, is issue number 1 really the top issue? Or are they pretty close, issues number 1 and issues number 2? And once you have that discussion, you may change the ranking slightly. And what I found is very seldom did that ever happen in a practice session. Normally, an actual participation session, and normally they're pretty good. So really, follow the instructions, use the template. You can find that template right here. And what it does, what I'm expecting you to do is, just highlight the title of the issue, provide an issue description, and then actually rate these 3 categories: the seriousness, and this is rate the issue from 1 to 5 based on its seriousness, 1 not being serious, and 5 to be having the most serious. And you could see that the ultimate score that's the highest becomes the top issue, and the lowest score becomes the lowest issue. Here's the link to that particular template. And this exercise allows you to define the priorities for your goals. So you can refer to slide 36 in this presentation around the purpose of strategic goals. But again, the total rated category for each issue is seriousness, urgency, and growth. And what I'm asking you to do is pick the top 3 ethical and social issues. Right? So you may pick 2 ethical issues and 1 social, and then you'll rank them. For Tim Hortons, as it pursues a global strategy. So you need to do a little bit of research around Tim Hortons' global strategy. But again, you can do that through ChatGPT or Copilot, but let me know that you've done that. Okay. All right. And so here's what's in topic 13 in terms of deliverables that's actually due tomorrow. I'll be a little bit lenient on that because I know it's all pretty short lived, and it's because of this course being crunched into a spring session. But what I'd like you to do is actually go through and identify the top uses for artificial intelligence in management. And oh, by the way, if you go through the presentation for topic 13, you'll get the answers. And again, from a critical thinking point of view, provide why it matters, a brief reason why you've chosen each one of those. All right. So that's to really kind of give you a sense of, okay, why did I do this? And it really makes your selection a lot more meaningful if you provide the why it matters. Okay. The second one, the 13B, is an individual submission, and this is how you get marks for doing your Pearson Rebel survey. So read the instructions, and really what I'm asking you to do is provide a PDF of some really quick screenshots of 25 of those surveys that you've completed to get 3 bonus marks in the overall participation. So that's where that's all about. I think the instructions are pretty self-explanatory when you get there, but if you do have any kind of problems or whatever, just email me and we can talk about it. Okay, so there's a post assessment, and that's assignment number 6. Here's the link to get there. And essentially, it's really to kind of measure how you've grown from assignment number one, where you've kind of given a sense of where you thought you were from a management uh, um, preferences and whatever point of view, and then how you've grown, and that will give you a good idea of, hey, how did this course impact the way I think? How did it impact the way I recognize now what my management styles and my decision-making styles are all about? And that should help you going forward. And keep this information, by the way, for future use, because you can go back to that and really get a sense of how well that you are doing. Okay. The Amazon number 4, sorry, the assignment number 4 Amazon project is due Thursday, June 12th. Here's the Google Doc link to it. And then what you need to do as an individual, submit, your reflections on, how did the group do, and answer those particular questions. And again, here's the 2 Pearson Revel surveys that you should entertain before you actually tackle the Amazon project, assignment number 4, and do any of the participation activities in the rest of the topics. Okay, so I talked about chapter 3, decision making, and I guess basically what I'm really trying to encourage you to do is adopt a decision-making process for yourself now, so that you can really kind of internalize that process and know it, second nature, so that when you come inside of a team, or you have to make a decision, you use the tools. And what I'm saying is, pick a decision-making process that works for you. There's all kinds of different types of decision-making processes out there, but if you find one, I guarantee it'll sharpen your focus, and it'll reduce uncertainty, and it aligns your choice with your goals, and transforming obstacles into opportunities, and driving sustained career success. So it will really set you up for whatever you choose to do when you leave this program. And what to remember, I think, in foremost, is that if you can do a personal core core, sorry, if you can do a core values survey of your own, and these core values surveys are free on the internet, and if you understand the priority of your core values, this will really help you in really understanding how subconsciously you make decisions in your mind as well, and that will go a long way in helping you understand how to make really good choices. And also, when you're in a group and you understand the core values of the group and the organization that you're working for, that will again support the decision-making process that you have. So that's the key message I'd like to leave you with right now. Here's the learning objectives again for chapter 3 in the Robbins PowerPoint presentation. They're discussing contemporary issues in managerial decisions, and they're really focusing in on the ethics and the social responsibility related to decision making. And we're going to talk about corporate social responsibility in topic 12 here. Okay. Again, here's the process, that's offered here. It's simplistic, but you identify a problem, and that's why I took you through the problem statement process in assignment number 3 to really give you a sense of, if I can really define this problem well as understood, then I'm pretty well 90% part of identifying the solution itself. And you identify the decision criteria, because that's where it takes the biases out of things. You allocate weights to that criteria, because some criteria are more important than others. You develop those alternatives. Remember, we talked about at least 3 alternatives, and based on total quality management practices. You analyze those alternatives, you select an alternative, and you implement it. And you're not done then. You keep evaluating that decision effectiveness, because some of the assumptions that you made to make that decision may have changed, and you may have to recalibrate. All right, and so that's a really key part of the process. All right, to go forward. Okay, group assignment 4. I talked about that. But remember that it's probably good to review individual assignment number 5, as you are doing group assignment number 4 or as you start or before you start, I should say, and it'll really give you a sense of what to look for your personal submission of assignment number 5. So have a look at it and then go from there. And again, just to remind you, you don't answer all 29 questions. You basically find enough questions to make up at least 100 points, and then you can go over a little bit based on your selection, but that's okay. And here I've given you like 3 examples of different questions that were selected based on the marks, and you can see this particular selection made 100 points, so that's perfect. And then it'll get graded out of 100 points. Example 2, it totaled 106, so it'll get graded under 106. And example 3, 104, and it'll get graded based on 104. So that the actual the formatting points of 6 points is not part of this allocation. And the thing is that it's an additional piece that I add. And again, if you do not provide this table of contents the way I'm asking you to do that, when you actually, your group needs to total these to make it really easy for me to be able to go through my assessment. I have this huge spreadsheet that I need to go through. And if you don't total this, it makes a lot more work for me. And that's where you could lose your total 6 marks on the formatting. Okay. All right. So again, this is a guideline. The paper cannot exceed 6 pages, excluding the visuals and the table of contents and the references. But essentially, this is as long as you're economical, you can exceed the 6 pages somewhat, but don't go over that. And again, if you use any kind of AI, please let me know that you've done that and you work from there. So assignment expectations, points are based on knowledge of theory and correct application of a theory. This means you need to reference the theorist and the respective theory applications to really kind of give me a sense that, yes, you've done your due diligence. And again, answers must be provided at a reasonable length. 1 or 2 or 3 word answers will not meet expectations. All right. And we'll go from there. And the best thing that you can do is go over these documents that I've provided you in terms of connecting theorists, tools, and techniques, and go from there. Here's for question 2, you can see that here's where you can find the 2024 financials, and that should really give you an idea of how to complete the actual balanced scorecard. In question number 2. And again, use the template that I've given you. And again, some of the groups have not actually calculated, the mean category score. And all it is just an average of whatever you scored in that particular category. And go ahead. And I think the corrections speak for themselves when I corrected the balanced scorecards that your groups have been submitting. Okay. All right. So what we're talking about in topic 12 is a contingency approach to management. And basically what that is that it's situational. And so what I'm saying is that management decision making is contingent, upon the situation. It's basically, what's really dictated, what's really dictating the situation. And again, when you talk about, Hersey and Blanchard, they're going to say, yes, it's the situation, and then it's where your team is in terms of their readiness and their capabilities, right? And so from a diagnostics point of view, managers have to possess and continue to improve their diagnostic skills to anticipate, and get ready for environmental changes. And also, you really should have not only, your predominant styles that, you're really comfortable with, but a few more management styles and management decision-making styles to be able to suit the situation, right? And optimize, the outputs and optimize your communication and leadership with the team that you're working with. But information and communication, that's the key. All right. You need to develop a communication system adequate to deal with the environmental changes. And the key thing around changing circumstances is to keep people informed and understand that. And remember in the project management illustration I showed you over time in terms of transformation, that you're going to get into that dip that comes down before the performance starts to go up, which we call the valley of despair. And the more that you can get ready for it, the more effective you're going to be at leading a transformation. So that's where that's all about. Kelly and Wesley Eskimo, they're key in terms of First Nations and understanding what's going on. So that's a really good area to get some information around that piece. Dealing with First Nation type people. And again, here's a little bit about it. They look at revitalizing traditional cultural principles. They talk about building internal capacity. By the way, all right, that's part of the balanced scorecard in terms of learning and growth. They talk about effective leadership, the community needs and aspirations and economic opportunities. So these are wise practices and a set of principles that you could use, pretty well across any kind of situation. And remember, again, here's the framework. You're going to work from a vision, mission, goals, and objectives. But these three key pieces are essential. And again, the byline here is, if your strategy is right and your business model can build in the competitive advantage, then it's all about execution. And I think I've kind of mentioned this many times, is that most organizations have a great plan, but they just don't do execution right. And that's where, what gets measured gets done, and where communication comes in, and understanding, the transformation requirements and what kind of change management tools that you can put into place to be able to get you through that transition. Okay. So what are the purpose of strategic goals? Well, essentially, it really kind of outlines the actionable priorities. And again, when we talk about strategic goals, think about microeconomics. All right, you're making the best choices, and what you're really dealing with is opportunity cost. So the choices that you make should be much better than the next best alternatives that you've gone through to make, to create those goals with. And again, all departments and team focus on shared outcomes. And I've been in organizations where there has been conflicting goals across different departments. And you really need to look at it from a cascading point of view, from the vision and the mission, to be able to have these goals align across all parts of the organization, to be able to have strong outcomes, and all because of their scarce resources, right? And that's what you're doing, is you're deploying scarce resources, and strategic planning and business planning is just as much about what you're not going to do as it is what you are going to do. So that's what the key thing that you need to remember. All right, so here's this illustration I gave you, and this is for participation activity 12A. And really what it's all about is to give you some ideas of where to look in terms of Tim Hortons global strategy, in terms of the foundations, the perspectives, and the layers. So there may be some key areas here that will trigger, where you can find issues, and then from those issues create goals to satisfy those particular issues. All right. So again, I'm not looking for generic type worded goals. I want you to get very specific about Tim Hortons so that I know that you're doing the due diligence and you're really kind of exercising critical thinking. I mean, that's really what we're looking for. And this is what this group team exercise is all about. And again, please use the templates. Okay, so again, here's the guidelines that I want you to go through and work from there. And also, here's the KPI template. It's not as important that you go through this particular template itself, but this is a good idea to go through and understand, why KPIs are so important, and picking the right KPIs is key. Okay. Now the second one, I've explained this quite a bit. It's really you're rating for each issue. You're rating the seriousness of that issue, the urgency of that issue, and the growth of that issue. And then when you total these up, you get a total number of points, and the issue with the greatest number of points, which I want you to stack as issue number one, really gives you the ranking of the issues and really to set this up across. So again, this is what these instructions are all about. Okay, so just let's put this in perspective. We are in challenging times. So we talked a lot about artificial intelligence and robotics and where that's going, but there's another layer on this. I mean, global trading was in its heyday, say just a couple of years ago, and now with United States kind of bringing in tariff wars, things have really kind of got messy right across the globe. And I think that you really need to understand that, because that's really going to affect your future. And the more that you could try to be innovative to work around those pieces and work with the issues, the better off that you're going to be. So there's going to be increased costs for business, reliance on global supply chains, heightened uncertainty in international markets. And so what does that mean? It means that you should really look into different types of planning to accommodate that, and work through things. All right. So that's a piece, and the ripple effects of these policies are reshaping trade relationships, so that you've got to do a lot of due diligence before you decide that, say, you're going to go into maybe another foreign country to be able to do things. Okay. All right. Okay. So here's some pieces, really highlighting what's going on. Not part of any kind of test, but it's really to kind of give you a sense of, hey, this is it's a new age that that we have to work through. In the last 10 years, it's been fairly stable growth year over year, and with more developing countries really getting growth and capability to be able to trade on a global basis. And this can really kind of mess things up over the next little while. So get ready for it. Okay. So what are the reasons to go global? Well, there's proactive reasons and there's reactive reasons. And the proactive are, one of the key things is, you're looking at factor cost differences across countries, so that you may have a technological advantage, or you have this unique product, and you have economies of scale, so that you can really gain what we call comparative advantage in microeconomics, to be able to go out and do really well. But then there's reactive reasons, competitive pressures. You just have to go to the grocery store here in Red Deer and take a look at what's on the shelves, and there's all kinds of foreign products on those shelves. So they're there competing with local products. So sometimes it behooves an organization to go global to find out, how are they gaining any kind of comparative advantage? Or sustained competitive advantage? What is it about that? And by going global, you could learn, what they know, and become more competitive. Or you have overcapacity, so that you're not producing. So that means you're not producing to capacity, which means that your unit cost of production is high. so that if you export more, well, then you can, drop your unit capacity down, or maybe your market is saturated locally, so you want to take your product in another area. So those are the kind of things the reasons for going global. So you want to expand your global market share. Maybe you want to restructure your value chain on a global scale, or it's your ultimate goal. Like uh, um, some organizations are what we call born global. They're made because their product is so technically advanced, and is the standard worldwide, as they have no problem in going global instantly. All right, and again, excess domestic production capacity is one of the biggest reasons for going out and selling your product outside and getting your unit cost down to achieve optimum economies of scale. So that's where that is. So what changes do global companies have to face? Well, market size, complexity of foreign markets, the governmental aspects of foreign markets. You can get into a lot of trouble if you don't understand the system of laws and regulations. The buyers, the new entrants, the rivalry, and oh, by the way, Michael Porter has a diamond model, for going global as well, and we're gonna cover a little bit on that today. But here are all the things that you need to do to go global. There's ways to export. You need to do industry analysis. You need to really get a sense of, hey, are you ready to go global? And what do you need? There's marketing issues, legal and political situation, as I outlined. The currency exchange can make or break a company if you don't, if you get into an area where the currency in a foreign entity is devaluating, you could really cause a lot of grief in your operations. And the sources of financing. And again, the sources of financing have really progressed over the last 10 years. It's amazing. Before it was just the large international financial institutions that really, managed or contained the market. In today's world, there's all kinds of sources of financing that's out there. Okay, so what are those key management decisions? Well, you need to get a sense of selecting the best market. What level of involvement are you going to take? And I talk about, learning to walk before you run, so that you may do this on a gradual basis as you develop internal capacity to do more for yourself. We talked about make or buy earlier on. So in some cases, when you start learning how to walk, you use agents, you need third-party partners, alliances to really get to where you need to go. How to get paid could be make or break for especially a small producer that goes international. And again, there's organizations like the Business Development Bank of Canada that will help you get paid. Global etiquette and travel, you really need to understand not only corporate culture, but you need to understand national culture. And if your particular corporate culture will clash with the national culture that in the area that you want to go in, and if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You need an export plan. And you need to work that plan, as a living document, to make sure that you're going through. So here's a key, and it's likely going to be some questions around, the types of global strategy. So, what, you look at, the pressures for global integration and the pressures for local responsiveness. There's always, there's a mantra called, think global and act local. But here's the different types of organizations. You can see that a global organization views the world as a single market. Operations are controlled centrally. That's really kind of an Apple kind of company. And where you have a multinational, where there's several subsidiaries operating as standalone business units in multiple countries. All right, so this is a key one that you really should understand what a multinational is versus an international and a transnational organization. So I've given you some particular definitions in the following slides, so we're going to kind of go through some of them. But how to go global, global sourcing. So some organizations will go global just so that they can source, you know, raw materials or pieces from around the world that are the highest quality or the cheapest or whatever, and so that it really gives you a sense of that could be one place where you could start, but you're always looking at, a continuum, a range where you have minimal global investment to significant global investment. This is the significant one is, when you're all in, and so the risk is much higher, the control is stronger. In the minimal, the risk is much lower, but the control, you can't control, your brand as well because, you've got other players that are playing and, you need to seek total alignment, right? So global sourcing is really one where, okay, you'll go out and you'll find the best materials. Maybe you can outsource the labor and have it produced somewhere else, offshore, to be able to get your costs down, to be able to supply, your domestic market alone sometimes as well. All right. So how do they go? So, how do the organization go? Well, they'll do global sourcing. Some will just try to export, making products at home and selling them abroad. Some will import, acquiring products made abroad and selling them at home. And the thing is, because the distribution and the custom requirements on all that is the same, for between exporting and importing. So a lot of similarities. A lot of organizations will do both and exploit the synergies across exporting and importing as well. Okay, but the thing is that here's where, I talked about, learning how to walk before you run. First, you get good at what you're doing domestically, and you understand, domestic marketing, and you know that, you have a very strong value proposition and the capabilities, from a marketing point of view to do well in your particular home market. And now that positions you to be able to get to the pre-export stage. And what the pre-export stage could mean is that you may not even do the export yourself. You may find an agent that maybe is even in your own country that will purchase your product and they will export it for you. All right. And then once you understand, where the market is and how well that your product is being received internationally, well, then you might say, well, you know what, we'll start looking at exporting ourselves. And then this could be gradual as well as that, you're just sending products from your home base, or all of a sudden now, in terms of active involvement, you buy a warehouse in this foreign land and you start creating your own means of distribution, and then to the point where, you're committed involvement in terms of that you have more infrastructure in the area that you want to export to, and to the point where you may even decide just to do local manufacturing in that foreign area to be able to get the most out of what's going on. But it's walk before you run. That's really what it's all about. And then this going global trajectory, you can see this golden key. So you can see that the different types of businesses fall into this walk before you run, where, you might just start exporting. And then, well, you might do exporting and licensing. Or you may do some franchising, and as you go up this, to a wholly owned subsidiary, you're really, fully committed now. And you should understand what, these implications are to this. So when we say wholly owned subsidiary, we can either do this by greenfield, and what greenfield means is that you go into, say, Germany because you want to you want to manufacture a particular type of motor. Well, then you will buy the land and you will build the factory and you will recruit. That's greenfield, right from the start. Or you could go in and buy an existing company that could lend itself to manufacturing your motor. So that's an acquisition. And what this involves is foreign direct investment. And now what you're doing, between wholly owned subsidiary and joint venture is that, you're putting money into this, you're equity based, And this really kind of ups the ante on the type of risk that you're going to start assuming. A joint venture is, you may find a partner in Germany for that motor, and create a joint venture where you're supplying the technology and the engineering, and perhaps they're doing the manufacturing, right? And that is a company on its own with those two partners going through. Or, you may go in with a few alliance partners. And there's ways of looking about that in terms of, one is just straight partners on an agreement. That's what they call a non-equity. But there is equity based. And what equity based means is that you may buy a certain amount of ownership in each one of those partners, and then you have more control over the overall brand and the end products or services that this alliance will be providing. So that's what that's all about. So these are the forms of business. Exporting. What a turnkey project is. Like there's a premier engineering firm in Canada called SNC Lavalin. Well, they're good at building power plants. So what they will do is they will go into another country and they will build a power plant right from scratch. They will recruit the people, they'll train the people to operate that, and they'll hand over this operating facility to the government for one large sum of money. And that's a turnkey, right? They turn it over. And then I talked about licensing and franchising, so we're going to get into that. Not going to talk about this too much. This is just for information, but you can see, though, when you start your domestic business, there's different avenues to kind of consider. So this one here, degree of similarity between foreign and domestic countries. So let's say Canada, right? So a Canadian company may choose to go to the US first. Why? Well, the business systems are the same. There's a lot of integrated supply chains that you can take advantage of. But at some point in time, when they grow so much, when you're way out here, you can be out on your own as an organization with no similarity whatsoever to your country, and you can succeed. But it really kind of gives you a sense of a progression of where you're going. This one is internal versus external. So in some cases, I talked about getting an agent before you to do your exporting for you. That would be right about here. But by the time you get out on this one, you're doing everything by yourself. And this one is mode of operations, so that you could go from just your domestic business all the way to an extensive production with full foreign direct investment in all functions. So that's really it. And then here on this piece is that how many areas do you go out, foreign wise. You may go to one country and then decide, hey, I'll go to several countries, and then you're in many countries. So you always start here, and this is walk before you run, all right? And getting into that. All right. So something to know about the cage model. You need to understand cultural distance, and what that is that how different is that culture from yours? The administrative and political distance, the geographical distance, and the economic distance. And again, based on that, there's really three types of global strategies. There's the global overall. There's the multi-domestic strategy and the transnational strategy. So understand what they are. So here they are. Here's some examples to understand what that is. Like Unilever adapts its products to local markets while leveraging global efficiencies, right? Well-known Canadian example for transnational is Shopify. It adapts its platform to meet local market needs. So I really have a look at this particular piece. And then here, I talked about Porter's diamond model. So essentially, understanding, before you go out there, what are the demand conditions in that foreign area? What are the factor conditions? Those natural resources, human resources. What are the related and supporting industries? I talked about building a business to create motors in Germany. Well, in Germany, there's a lot of related and supporting industries, that are precision parts and precision functionings for different types of manufacturing goods. So that would be a great place. If your motor was a high functioning, technically, superior type of motor that you wanted to create. And then the strategy and the structure and the rivalry, what's going on. So this is a great model to understand what this is all about. So here's the details about that, and here's the model itself. So really interesting to understand what this is all about. And again, where are we? I talked about this earlier. When you have existing customers, existing markets, and you have existing products and new, this is where you really can have the best returns. When you're getting on this part of that 2x2 matrix, you're really introducing a lot of risk, especially on the diversification, so that you're looking at new products and new areas, and you're really taking on a lot of risk. So that's where to start. The common types of entry modes, we started talking about that, but these are the key ones, right? Direct exporting, indirect exporting. I talked about an agent doing that for you. The joint venture, this is where you can find a partner in an area that you want to penetrate in, and strategic alliances. I talked about that, and then how much direct foreign investment are you going to do, and that all works towards your global strategy. Again, have a look at this piece and understand what that's all about. And here's a transnational strategy. So I've given you more details to kind of go through on that piece. But the whole idea: think global, act local. So that's where you're heading. I kind of explained this piece. Not going to talk about this one, but you can see here is in terms of here's where this is the ownership continuum, where you go from wholly owned, and a great number of great control, greater degree of ownership and control, and essentially no partners, right? To when you can get into these areas, now you've got a little control, but it's all about your strategy. Sometimes you want to be in more parts of the globe, so you will relinquish control and an amount of foreign direct investment so you can spread that out, because maybe there's a country that you want to globally source from, and so you need to be there, and the overall outcomes of your organization will be we'll get some synergy over that, rather than just being in one part of the globe. Okay, so here's a description of the range of global approaches. Again, key on here, so it really gives you a sense of what these areas are, and more definitional. But again, understanding what these definitions are. So here's one that's highlighted that's important, and again, this really kind of gives you the advantages and disadvantages of the different types of operations that you need to assume. So again, transnational organization, it's an international company with artificial geographical barriers, are eliminated. So the country of origin is irrelevant. They focus on efficiency and effectiveness. And these are some of the companies that some developing nations don't want to deal with, because they feel that they relinquish too much national control, and then too much of their strategic national efforts, because a transnational organization is so powerful. They'll shape what they need to do to make money in that particular country. So here's a little bit about the parent company. You can have 100% wholly owned subsidiary, or you can have a 75% or a 25%. And again, this is really to kind of maybe get a foothold, like here for 25%, get a foothold in a particular country, so that you can use other foreign direct investment resources to be able to to get into complementary ventures to increase your overall value proposition. Okay. Uh, so a little more about a foreign subsidiary, company that operates in one country but is partially or wholly owned by a parent company based in another country. So you know what that is. And then the types of global organizations. So a centralized management structure is a multinational corporation, assets or facilities in multiple countries. Here's the transnational. So, you should pay fine attention to these definitions. You can see that they're highlighted. I won't go through them. But then there's types of global organizations. I wanted to talk about regional trade alliances. Like regional trade alliances are, in various regions across the globe. So there'll be a regional trade alliance, say uh, in 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 the in the Mediterranean, or there will be down in down in the southern parts of the globe. And what you need to understand is that as the distance increases between countries that trade, you know, um, the trade drops. So if you're in close proximity to your alliance partners, or you're in the trade alliance, you can do a lot better. In some cases, some of the um, uh, organizations are just happy to be just in a regional trade alliance because it's the type of growth that they want to maintain, and it's manageable and it does it for them. Other organizations want to be fully global because they want to grow as much as they possibly can. So there's a lot of advantages of the regional trade alliance going forward. And one of the key ones is, again, in the Caribbean, there's a couple of regional trade alliances that do quite well. Okay, I'm not going to talk about this, but it just gives you an idea of location decisions affecting international operations. You really need to look at physical and social factors and competitive factors to develop, what strategy. And this is iterative because things change. And then you decide, what type of structure and implementation that you can do based on this kind of analysis. Um, and political and legal forces often play a critical role in international marketing. So you need to understand how this will impact, external influences on the type of strategy that you adopt. Okay. Um, Okay, so foreign availability, major change has also resulted in increased foreign availability of high technology products. In the past decade, you know, the global trade has really grown. And in earlier decades, it was all about wage-based competition. But where are we today? We're with artificial intelligence and robotics, 3D printing. You can do a lot in your own home territory now, and compete against these lower wage type of companies. So high technology products are available worldwide from many sources in today's world. So that's where you need to look at it. Political risk is really important. And so I put some slides in here to kind of cover that piece. Um, and understand the difference between the different law codes. Know the difference between civil code and common law. And civil, and Canada itself has two of these in them. If you take a look at Canada, in Quebec it's civil code law, and the rest of Canada is common law. And so civil law was framed in France, so you can see that's where Quebec got its law. Common law is really case dependent, and civil law is coded, so that you follow the instructions. So judgment in common law varies, whereas in civil law the judges have to strictly follow the codification written in the book. Right? So you can see here now where the different types of laws are, and that may be a big proponent in deciding where you want to go internationally to be able to do things. And then understand, where the autocracies are, where and how does that come down? Like dictators really are on the side of the rule of man, whereas North America and Australia and a lot of parts of Europe, it's the rule of law. So the rule of law what's important in economic situations is that it should have law and order, and so that if you're operating in a country that's very autocratic and is subject to rule of law, well, then you better understand the lay of the land and how the law can impact the success of your business. So that's a really key piece. All right. So rule of man holds that ultimately authority resides in a person. It's a whim. The rule of law holds that no one, whether a public official or private citizen, is above the law. So that's really key. Okay. And again, there's alignment that the more freedom there is in the law system, the more economic freedom there is as well. So that you can really judge how well you could do economically, based on what the law looks like. We talked about PESO, we talked about legal factors, but here just to let you know, there's a political and legal factors impact the element of framework. This source will really give you an idea if you want to go in and research a global competitive index. It lists all these factors, and that's the reference for it. Okay. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk about ethics and corporate social responsibility. And again, this ties into the triple bottom line platform that I've been talking to you about, right? Where the people side, which is the social part, is really important. The environmental side, which is is key in today's world in terms of climate change, and then the actual profitability or prosperity part, is you still have to make money to survive. And the ethics ties into corporate social responsibility from the people side as well, and systems, right? So if you have a ethics driven organization, well, then chances are that it will increase your brand awareness as well. People like that, and we'll talk about this a little more. So in today's situation, we're talking about globalization, but we're talking about sustainability, and we're talking about technology changes and ethical responsibility and social responsibility. And this ties into some of the questions in assignment number 4 with Amazon, and then the actual participation activities that you have to take a look at. And that's why it's so important to do those last 2 Pearson Rebel surveys on ethical responsibility and social responsibility. So here's how this all comes together. But just remember this from Peter Drucker: planning typically leads to higher profits, right? So planning is key, all right, in terms of that. And again, you manage the social impact, with along the people side and the environmental side, and it's all about being good ancestors as we go through. So again, what are ethical and social responsibilities of an organization? Well, here are some of the key issues that they have to deal with: discrimination and harassment, workplace health and safety, and especially in Canada, the laws are getting more and more strict when it comes to workplace health and safety. Whistleblowing, you're protecting whistleblowers so that there's transparency and accountability in organizations. Ethical accounting practices, corporate espionage and non-disclosure, technology and privacy, nepotism and favoritism, and environmental responsibility. So those are key ethical and social responsibilities of an organization. And again, there's different types of ethical systems that you should recognize that are across the globe, and some are a better fit for your organization than others, or an awareness at least of what that ethical system is like, is to know what you're up against and what will be the pressures from a policies point of view in your organization. So again, universalism, all people should uphold certain values. Egoism, acceptable behavior is which maximizes the benefit of individuals. Utilitarianism, greatest good for the greatest number. Um, Relativism ethics is defined by the opinions and behaviors of relevant people. And then, virtue effects, moral behavior comes from people of good moral character. Bateman and Konopasky kind of really outlined this, but it's another piece of understanding, part of national cultures as well. But this is key now, right? You need to have this view of what these are, all right? And likely some questions on the test about this, but understand what the utilitarian view is, the rights view, the theory of justice, and then integrative social contracts, right? So those are the key pieces. And here's, an example of some ethical issues, and how that relates. But to get a perspective, from a global basis, you can see where, conflict of interests are still, very high. These are the most common types of ethical misconduct in the workplace. Abusive behaviors are still high, violations of health and safety. So you can see where that fits and really get a sense of where you as a manager, in terms of implementing, management principles, what's key in your country, in your organization, and what you really need to deal with to make things work. But training has an impact, and this has been proven. There's research out there saying, if you train your people on ethical behavior, they will be a lot more informed and will understand alternatives to getting around issues, and staying on the good side of ethical behaviors. And training has a big impact on doing that, and it's been proven to help organizations that are international or on the global scene. Let's talk about corporate social responsibility. So a firm's intention beyond its legal and economic obligations, do the right things and act in the right ways. So the thing is that organizations can still be doing things that are legally, but morally they're bankrupt, right? So you got to understand that piece, and that's understood through social obligations, activities that a business firm engages to meet economic and legal responsibilities, uh, coupled with social responsiveness, where the business firm engages in social actions in response to some popular and social need. So this is a key piece to understand about CSR, corporate social responsibility, and really everybody's involved, from the owners, the customers, the communities, the suppliers, the workers, and that's what you're tapping into, and you can see, you go into a boutique coffee shop, you'll see this sign on the wall, perhaps fair trade, and that's to make sure that coffee producer workers, in some foreign country are treated fairly, and they're working in safe conditions. And so the considerations are economic and social, technological, political, and legal on all of these. And how is a lot of that coming about now is that we have informed consumers in today's world. And that's one driver of CSR. So it's what we call conscious consumerism. And the key elements of that are, ethical sourcing. They will only work with companies, organizations that are known and are validated for being strong corporate social responsible organizations, that are practicing good practices in environmental sustainability, that are demonstrating true social responsibility, and that have transparency and accountability. So that's a key piece. And here's the approaches to CSR. And again, you can see that this is really important to know. There's obstructionist approach, and that's disregard. And then there's the proactive, strong commitment. And if you ever want an example, it's Van City Credit Union, as a Canadian operation, our benchmark, in this proactive approach to a strong commitment to social responsibility. And then in between here. So a defensive, they'll do the minimal commitment, whereas accommodative approach, moderate commitment. So on this side, of the bookends, that's where, true CSR happens. And on this side, there's no responsibility. So understand those, you know, but it's all about, being a good ancestor. You build a good reputation for a company, and global brand is key in today's, global economy. And the more that you can, tout being a corporate social responsible organization, the better regarded that your brand will be. A good reputation means business, improved ability to obtain resources, enhance profitability. Excuse me. Okay, so here's more about knowing what these are about. So you should know what the obstructionist stance is all about. Corporation takes an obstructionist stance, may cross ethical or legal lines. uh, what a defensive stance is, you can see like the cigarette companies, they make profits a more important motive than performing actions. In some cases, they've they've taken their business to countries that have less regulation, to work. The accommodative stance, well, then it's a company or cooperation that exceeds legal minimums, but are there. But then the proactive stance, and here's this bit about Van City. You can find it about all the things that they do. They make social responsibility a a priority. But guess what? All right, corporate social responsibility pays. And really, if you're looking to take people up the customer loyalty ladder, and this is really, the sales process, right? Where you have leads, and then prospects and customers and clients. But CSR will definitely make champion advocates, brand champions. So that's a key piece of the benefits of corporate social responsibility. It pays. It's not only good, it pays. And I keep on talking about sustainability through being a good ancestor. It's known that, say, like the Iroquois Nation in North America, when the elders made a decision, they made a decision based on 7 generations, to make sure that that seventh generation way out into the future, would be impacted positively from the key decision. So again, and there people or First Nations that were tied to the land really understood what sustainability was all about. And ethical issues, the ethical or obligations faced by multinational enterprises include corporate governance and responsibility, intellectual property rights, and corruption. So that those are key things that you need to really take a look at. And so you can see some yellow highlighting here that you should understand that's important. But it's all about transparency and accountability, and that's what's key. If you take a look at Enron, this is way back in 2002, they made some very bad decisions in terms of accountability and transparency, and they did some illegal things. They built a house of cards, and that darling of the stock market back in the 2000s crumbled because of not really looking at accountability and transparency. And as a result of that, from an accounting point of view, the U.S. instituted the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. And really what it was a whole listing of rules which really didn't go, which was overwhelming for small and medium-sized businesses. So sometimes, the rules are come across just for the people who violate, and then everyone else suffers, right? So intellectual property is really important. You can see what the World Trade Organization has done. It's come a long way in terms of and influencing, the protection of intellectual property, and again, integrate corporate social responsibility with daily business practices is really where you need to go. Okay, not going to talk too much about this. Yeah, so I'll leave you with this one, this honorable merchant. So one major development in Europe, particular Germany, is an effort to return the concept of, honorable merchant. This is in German, this concept which emerges, it's a good understanding of other cultures, dedicated research and planning for opportunities, scrupulous honesty. There's no room for bribery and corruption with honorable merchants. So, those are kind of guidelines to live by. So I'm just going to take a break, a 5-minute break. The unit is still under recording. But if you have any questions, again, email me. And if the answers are related, to the greater student body, I will put them on announcements as well in Blackboard. Okay, so I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Okay, I'm back. We're on topic 13. And the thing again is that topic 13 content is not in the test, but these participation activities are required. So what I'd like you to do is this first one, it's a group team exercise for 13A, and really you're brainstorming ideas for AI use and management, and take a look at the top 10 issues, or sorry, top 10 uses of AI, and again a brief reason, so why it matters, right? To demonstrate you've done some critical thinking, and the actual slides in this presentation roughly start about 83 to 89. It'll give you the ideas of what's out there so that you can choose 10 good ones for your own use. Okay. The second one is an individual submission. This is to get 3 bonus marks for posting a PDF file that shows that the screenshots of all the Rebel surveys. So really, it's just a facsimile. I'm not looking for a big picture or whatever, just to show me that, yeah, you've done at least 25 of these surveys that qualify. You can see what's asterisk, you can't submit. And the thing is, if you do have any questions, just email me and I'll clarify what needs to get done. Okay, assignment number 6, like I said, is due on June the 12th, and really it's a summation of how you've done compared to assignment number 1, where you actually established your baseline. Okay. Assignment number 4 is due June the 12th. I talked about that. Assignment number 5 is it's an individual submission. It's due the 12th. But I'm hoping that throughout this course is that you understand that writing is your superpower, right? And the more that you can write in the formulations that business people understand and can follow you, the more effective you're going to be in getting what you need, what you want. I can tell you this by actual experience. I know that when I first started doing program management, I used to have to go to a committee with an annual budget for the particular programs that I wanted to take on, and I'd need to get sponsors and resources for that. And lo and behold, it didn't take me long to realize that the people who knew how to write these proposals and respond and present these proposals effectively got what they wanted. And so it's that simple. So really consider that. I mean, in real estate, it's location, location, location. Well, in business, it's communication, communication, communication. So have a look at this article. I think it'll go a long way in really helping you, be successful in your career and in your life. Okay, and to think, here's the key: AI may not replace you. Artificial intelligence, but someone using it might. And look at this, by 2030, AI is projected to displace 92 million jobs while creating 170 million new ones. I mean, it's not a surprise that, I introduced assignment number 3 to really give you a sense of what's out there and basically look at your choice of career going forward and how you can adopt and become in that, that elite 20% and always be employed. You may not be employed by the same organization, but you will be employable because you'll have the skills and the capabilities that really will enhance and manage AI, and you won't be managed by AI. So, have a look at this article. It may help you going through. But here's the key, especially in Canada, right? Canada is facing a cost crisis and a productivity problem. Its national productivity is declining. All right. In 2022, our labor productivity was 28% lower than the US figure and 18% lower than the G7 average. This is paramount. And this is why it's so important that AI, is a promise to be able to make, Canadian national productivity, a hallmark. And you want to find the right AI tools and to be able to do that. And the right tools could be costly for a smaller business, but understanding what's available and working, and can really, improve our national statistics. Because when productivity drops, well, guess what? Our comparative advantage drops. When our comparative advantage drops, our exports drop. When our exports drop, our standard of living drops. All right, so that's where that's all going. All right, so AI has been, become a worldwide phenomenon, rapidly improving technology, making headlines and widening its scope. But even in the last 2 weeks, just the information that I've taken in from news shows or whatever, it's really growing at extensive, accelerated rates. And the thing is, there may be key fundamental changes in the way that that way that we live and the way that you do work, in the next 10 years. So, get ready for it. All right. To better understand it, BDC conducted a literature review on topic and surveyed like 1,247 business owners, and look at the rise of where we are right now, just in Chat GPT and what's going on. It's just unbelievable. Larger and younger firms have higher adoption rates. 86%. Young firms 78%. Micro businesses 60%. Older firms, and so understanding, these older firms are likely to be family organizations that you go into. You can see your challenges are, what they are ahead of you. But Canadian firms are less productive on average, and their counterparts in peer countries. I mean, you take a look at where we are in terms of productivity. It's just it's not good. Okay, so what is AI? It refers to machines or computer systems can simulate human intelligence processes such as reasoning, making decisions, and solving problems to perform tasks. And we saw this is that it's going to come to really be strong and predictive, but at some point in time it's going to become prescriptive as well. So those are the things that you need to be mindful of, so that you can you can adjust and change and to be able to meet the requirements. So an AI's ability to quickly process and analyze massive amounts of data is at the heart of its capabilities. So we're going to be in this greater age of big data and data management, and again, AI is going to command a lot of a lot of server centers to be able to manage large data. So that in itself will consume a lot more energy globally than what we've ever imagined. And an AI-enabled tool is an app, like a software program or piece of equipment that uses some form of AI to function. And again, you take a look at personalized recommendations on a shopping website, voice assistants, image and speech recognition programs, apps that provide driving directions. And again, translation devices have been, have seen amazing advances, and it enhances tools and creates opportunity. So you're controlling costs, you're increasing sales, you ease labor shortages, you navigate uncertainty with this. So it'll help businesses in a lot of ways. And again, business age, size, and location affect AI adoption. So you can see that young firms, 5 years or older, 78% adoption rates. Were large, small and medium-sized enterprises, you can see that they've got more capability or resources to be able to adopt more, and those are the figures that you're looking at. So its use is expected to increase among small and medium-sized enterprises. So get ready that that it is coming. And take a look at this. In use today, 86% of larger SMEs in just I think this is 2024 data. In just 2 years, look at the increases in what's going on in terms of adoption rates. So the pieces here is just incredible. What can be, and here's the percentage based on generative AI tools, online automated advertising tools, translation services, customer services, and in terms of automation, transportation. So you can see, where the growth areas are. Um, and so most businesses started using AI tools only recently, but take a look at where that's going. And then how much does it cost? Well, yeah, it costs money. So, you can see where most businesses, 62% implemented AI for less than 5,000, but more than one third spent less than 1,000. But these tended to be light users. And you can get into now, where the organizations are spending the money. But, here's a testimonial from an owner of a group. So really had no choice but to change the way we did things. As the industry evolves, there's no room for small businesses that don't adapt. So get ready. Okay. All right. So this is just more statistics. Look at this, 35% of businesses that have implemented a chatbot say it helped to reduce costs, 61% satisfied with their AI-enabled chatbot. And some very examples of what's really going on here. So this is really just for your information, but to stay abreast of what's going on, I think is the key thing. So advice on using AI in your business. So it lies in what problems AI tools were built to solve. All right. So again, we're getting back to, I'm helping you develop, the right kind of problem statements to really understand the problem is understood. And again, I strongly encourage you to look at problem solving methods and different platforms to be able to really get you to the crux of what needs to get done, and you'll be a lot more effective and a lot more economical on how you implement these solutions. Okay, so tips for getting started: assess your business needs and objectives, adopt a data-driven culture, and learn about the different AI options. And there are going to be more and more AI options as you go forward. So here's the thing about big data analytics. Why is it so much of a concern? You can see the growth statistics in this article, and the distinction between using AI as an agent versus a tool is totally significant, and you better understand this piece, all right? Because a lot, when you go from using AI as a tool to using AI as an agent, here's where ethical considerations really come into play, because now AI as an agent will basically make decisions and take actions without direct human intervention. So the policies better be kind of inserted into the boundaries of what AI can do as an agent, and there's less transparency. So it allows for error. It allows for making decisions that are beyond what was expected. And again, it gets down to the triple bottom line approach to making AI a good a good application for the future. Okay, so key differences now. Tools require human control, right? While agents operate with a level of autonomy. Tax complexity, tools handle specific, often simpler tasks, whereas agents manage more complex, adaptive tasks. And that's where things, there's more variability, so things can go wrong. And transparency, tools tend to be more transparent in their operations compared to agents. So you'll be making these kind of decisions in your career lifetime. So understand, what the features are around using it as an agent. So these are the kind of things that you really need to take into consideration. Look at the poor management decisions around data privacy and security risks, bias and discrimination, financial losses, decreased employee morale, customer dissatisfaction, regulatory non-compliance, operational inefficiencies, innovation stagnation. Without proper management, AI initiatives might not be effectively aligned with strategic goals, or they may be hindering innovation altogether. And then And then as an agent, several potential issues, again, that you can go through and really get a sense. All right. So since 2020, North America has witnessed significant growth. And you can see here that, look at this, China by 2030, AI will represent 26.1% of China's GDP. And look at where North America is going to be at the same time, way behind. And guess what? This number is so low because of Canada's productivity. This is a North America figure. So you got to take that into consideration that we're going to get left behind in Canada if we really don't introduce AI to leverage our productivity. A little more stuff around this piece. The different applications, to be aware of, multimodal AI, multiple modalities, text, images, videos, smaller language models, graphic process. So understand, all right? So even in our smartphones, once we start using additional AI, we're going to need additional computer capacity, all right, to be able to do things. And here's one key one around customized local models and data pipelines. That's going to become, the thing of the future that's really important. And we're going to have more powerful virtual agents, and there's going to be more regulation, copyright, and ethical and AI concerns. Already, there's regulation in the U.S. About fake AI creations, and that's really becoming key in terms of ethical considerations. So let's embrace these trends, shape the future. All right, and so here's some more material that you can get into and go through that. So now I'm going to just get into what's really going on is that AI will change business roles. Automation, routine tasks will be automated. Decision support will provide data-driven insights for better decisions. New job roles. So here's where you come in terms of your new level of skilling, to be able to handle that. And you could be an AI ethicist or a data engineer, and the upskilling will be lifelong learning. If you think, lifelong learning was, what was a little bit of an inconvenience, now it's going to be, you're going to have to keep up, going through. So again, in terms of evolution of management principles and theories, look at where these things are going in terms of data-driven decision making, in terms of agility and flexibility, in terms of enhanced human AI collaboration. These articles really will give you an idea of what's going to go on in terms of where you'll have to, evolve these management principles and theory, and it would all be driven by disruptive AI technology, to transform those management principles. So this is a key slide in terms of really knowing where you could take things, and it'll really prepare you for the future. So new management focus areas, ethical AI implementation, talent management and upskilling, innovation and creativity. So, those are really pieces. So preparing workers, so a lot more continuous learning, adaptability and resilience and collaboration skills. So in conclusions, managers need to focus on ethical AI implementation, talent management, and fostering innovation. And workers need to get ready, to embrace this continuous learning because they can be displaced. So those are the key things. Now we're going to get into natural language processing. And, with AI, it's just becoming, even more and more of a piece. And you take a look at, now people don't even have to learn coding. They just have to, understand how AI can help them, create the code. And NLP research has helped enable generative AI. So there's all kinds of things about NLP. It's crucial because it bridges the gap between human communication and computer understanding, and enhances various applications. So, this is a key area that you should be cognizant of. and also, where you can do, with NLP, you can do sentiment analysis now. And when you do sentiment analysis, really you're getting a sense of the emotional side, say of the purchasing process. And you could mine, text around that and find ways of improving, your say your CRM, your customer relationship management platform. And you can see, where, what the benefits are right here. So getting ready for AI, learn the basics. You got to stay curious, collaborate, work with interdisciplinary teams to gain diverse perspectives, and ethics first, because this part about, where this could take us, it could take us down some pretty dark and nasty roads if we don't have your management skills in making sure that things are right, in terms of ethical implications of AI in business. So how do you navigate this? Well, here's some references: skills for business competency, skills needed for building an AI career, skills to jumpstart your AI. So it will redefine the workforce, and it's starting to already. So we know that. The data shows, look at this, just in the last 4 years, AI has grown by 270%, in applications. It's just crazy. So here's some more statistics to do that. But again, I keep on talking about the new wave of management principles, and empathy has to be a big part of this. And that's where you're going to deal, mainly around taking care of ethical issues. It's a force. It's not a weakness. It's found its place in the heart of modern business management, and it's about fostering a culture that values people and relationships and understanding, which is, really key, going forward. So here's some ways empathy influences our business landscape. Employee well-being, customer-centric approach, innovation and creativity, conflict resolution, ethical decision-making. So that's a key piece: adaptability and diversity and inclusion. And these things are still important regardless of, there's a lot of populist type of government movement around, looking at diversity and inclusion now, saying that, it's gone too far. I think this is temporary, so that, this is the way that we're going to get around this and do it right. Okay. So it isn't a weakness. Empathy is a strength. We embrace empathy. We redefine success on one human interaction at a time. All right. Okay. So now we're getting into, I think this is the first slide around, participation 13A. So important benefits of AI. You can see better decisions, efficiency, and productivity gains, improved speed of business, all these things. So read this through, and now you can see examples of specific uses of AI, where they really come to the forefront in terms of healthcare and financial services, industrial maintenance and transportation. Those are some of the key areas, and AI will have a big impact on that. So you can really read these slides and find out, how best you could answer participation activity 13.A. And look at the law. AI systems do the work that would have required 10 to 20 lawyers in the past, and do it more quickly, more cost effectively. So it's pervasive. It's going to really kind of start, working its way through and causing a lot of change and transformation. So here's a big slide in terms of applications of AI for doing that. And again, this begs the fact of, what's the next generation manager? What should they look like? Well, treats intelligent machines as colleagues. So it won't be long, before you'll have an AI companion, working with you, either as a robot, or inside of your computer device. Focuses on judgment work, right? So again, you're bringing critical thinking, strategic thinking, systems thinking together to create judgment work. Does real work, passing off administrative tasks to AI, collaborates digitally across boundaries, and works like a designer. right? So you'll be looking at how do I improve AI capabilities? How can I, put boundaries around AI agents to make sure that we make ethical and sound business decisions? Uh, and alongside that, AI now will just fully integrate into management information systems, and and uh, and so that what is an IS system, combination of hardware and software, but there's functional systems, just to name a few. All right, uh, um, customer relationship management, enterprise resource management, supply chain management. These are probably three of the most crucial platforms, in modern business today. And then business intelligence in terms of doing, assessments and those pieces. All right. So the job is really, it's going to require extensive use of IT and support decision making. So that's why we've been covering a lot about decision making in this program, and to monitor the performance of the firm. And so business invest in IT to achieve operational excellence, new product services, business models, customer supplier intimacy, improved decision making, competitive advantage, and survival. Right. So just understand that this is the crux of why we're doing all this piece. But again, understanding that in some ways nothing's changed. All right, we have inputs, we process, classify, arrange, calculate, and we have outputs. How do we do that? Right, and that's the functions of IT systems. Okay. I'm going to go through this, but again, the dimensions, people are key. All right, information systems required skilled people, employee attitudes, affect ability to use the systems productively. So really, this is culture, right? This is the uh, triple bottom line mindset. The roles of managers: looking at the challenges, set the organizational strategy, allocate human and financial resources, look at the creative work around new products and services. Okay. Okay. So here's the piece. All right. So what we did was, we look at the four types of data analytics. So first, what we do is we look at the data itself and what's it telling us. That's descriptive, and then we can say, okay, so from what it's telling us, what's happening. How can we find out what the root causes of problems are, or isolate, the key themes, the key pieces. And then the next level is, and here's where AI starts to get into the picture, in a big way, to be able to say, okay, well, based on these diagnostics, here's what we think could happen. All right, business strategies remain fairly consistent over time, but decisions are automated. All right, and then okay, now based on what we think is going to happen, here's what you should do. All right. And so that understanding this piece, with big data and what AI can do, it'll become more and more powerful. So that's just crucial. And then here's just an example of embedded analytics, purpose built for software teams. It's just getting, this is for business intelligence to really understand what's going on. And you really should understand, how do you data mine, and then how do you make data, to be put in one source, so that it's not compromised, that it's not corrupted. All right. So, that's in the, in terms of storage. And so that understand what an ERP is, and it's an enterprise resource. So this allows for real-time data sharing, streamlined processes, improved decision making. Now, I went through this, when I was part of the TELUS corporation, and they actually converted to SAP, and it wasn't a small task. It was a series of about it went on for about almost 5 years, to do that conversion. But it does provide a 360 degree of looking at what's going on in terms of transparency and real-time reporting on what's going on. Okay. Just know, that, we're getting into, cryptology protection of data and cryptology uh, 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 encapsulation of currency. And, so understand that, this is all kind of enveloped inside of what they call blockchain and logistics. So you really should understand what blockchain is. This is the new form of really protecting, supply management. And so this will give you an idea of what this is all about. So, here's a little bit. It can track orders, payments, accounts, production, much more. And because members share a single view of the truth, right? That's the key thing, you know. So everybody sees the same thing. You can see all the details of a transaction end to end, giving you greater confidence as well as new efficiencies. And again, this is incorporated into supply chain. IBM and Maersk, one of the premier global shipping companies, created a joint venture to create a blockchain, a, uh, a blockchain company, a joint venture, and started this journey. Now there's several, organizations doing the same thing, uh, but again, it's disrupting the supply chain industry because you can see that it offers transparency and tracking and ownership history. There's a whole uh, um, uh, uh, standard of supply chain, global supply chain, and what they call Incoterms. And when there's a transfer of physical, well then there's a transfer of ownership and there's a transfer of money, and all this it gets contained in blockchain now. And you can do all kinds of things. Pinpoint a product's exact origin. Automation of the purchasing process. So it facilitates tracking of purchase orders, changes, orders, receipts, shipment notification. So here's a little bit more about blockchain. Here's one that you should know about the Internet of Things. And what they are is basically, I'm sure you've heard of, smart technologies where, you're making devices smart. Well, now what you're doing is you're making large operations smart with the Internet of Things. So there's a thing called precision agriculture. And what that means is there's sensors in the ground measuring the pH. There's sensors measuring the weather. There's sensors, measuring, applications of fertilizer, all those things. And all these sensors now send their data to be analyzed by an AI platform. And what's happening in today's world is that the number of applications in North America of Internet of Things is doubling, which means that it's just going to change the way that we do business overall. And so that you should really kind of understand what this is all about. This is a great opportunity. Here's just an example of an application for college students in a smart dorm room system to really give you a sense of what's going on. But the whole piece here is that you start from that in terms of the Internet of Thing value chain, the device all the way through to how does that support the end user. So there's applications and trials, testing, local research development, end user training and support to be able to make this work. Okay, and here's sort of the distribution of the hardware, the connectivity, and the applications you can see, and this is growing by leaps and bounds in this piece. And then how does IoT work with blockchain? Well, it enables the internet to send private to data blockchain networks. So going through information systems and business operations. I mean, they streamline operations. So this is all the pieces that that you're getting into, and in terms of customer engagement, CRM will not be the same. I mean, I think CRMs now will probably know more about the customer than what they know about themselves, right? So you're going to see, personalization and targeting a lot more, improve customer service, the complete customer histories, and provide personalized support. So the key takeaways, look at Amazon. Their success demonstrates the power of data-driven decision making, efficient logistics, and the ability to scale rapidly. I mean, with their AI capability in their organization, they're always going to be on the leading edge, in terms of providing a customer-centric approach and continuous innovation. So that's it. That's it for the course. I know it's been protracted. I know it's a 14-week course that's pushed into 7 weeks. It's a lot of information, but I think the best thing that you could take away from this is that keep all your Rebel survey information for future use as you leave this program. And, really understand where your baseline is. Really get a good sense of, where do you want to take your career, and what kind of capabilities do you need for that career of the future. And I think this will really help you get a really good sense of the tools and techniques that you need that are supported by new management principles that you're going to help create. So I wish you the best in your program, and I wish you the best when you leave this organization as well. Okay, and you start you start fulfilling your overall career. So take care, and again, if you have any questions, please email me, and also if there's anything that your colleagues can benefit from, I'll be sure to give you credit for your question, by your first name, and actually provide the answers over Blackboard notifications or announcements. Okay, all right. So best wishes in your future. Take care.